All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again for another episode of the Sea Unicorns. Today we have, of course, played by Plager, Adam Plager.
How's it going, everyone?
He's got the coolest emoji or the coolest avatar going. Lee Walter, who is the general manager of the Sea Unicorns. And we have the player of the week with the Sea Unicorns, Anthony Tirado. So Anthony, take a look at the camera and wave and say hello.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. So I question right off the bat, because we were talking about it a little bit, right before, I clicked the button and everything. You live in Cheshire.
Yeah, correct.
But you're staying elsewhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
But still being in Cheshire, and you said, well, when playing the Bees in New Britain, it's very easy because it's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you end up with the Sea Unicorns as opposed to maybe the New Britain Bees?
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about before, Mr. Lee played with my father growing up, and it was always a thought to play for Norwich. And once I got the opportunity, I think I wanted to play for Mr. Lee and play for Norwich, and then ending up there, it's definitely worth it, taking the drive and everything, yeah.
Gotcha. Is your first name Lee or last name Lee?
My last name is Walter, but
all right.
Anthony will not. He refuses to call me Lee, like I've asked. So, and funny story about that, when I was growing up, I had friends in the neighborhood whose parents insisted that they call everybody Mr. and Mrs. whatever it was. And my father refused to be called Mr. Walter as well. So my friends started calling my parents Mr. and Mrs. Lee. So it's kind of funny that Anthony started doing that to me as well.
There's a teacher that walks by my house all the time, and he was one of my teachers in middle school. And he said right out, why don't you just call me Mickey? I said, I can't.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't? I said, no, you're Mr. Keenan. That's just the way that it is. And I've had that conversation with other teachers, so I get it.
Yeah,
I absolutely get that. So, Adam.
Yep.
How are things behind the headset and the microphone in the booth for you?
It's been awesome. I think it's taken a big step up from last year. I think just comfortability, familiarity with our team, and getting to go on the road has been a lot of fun, doing some away game calls. But I think our broadcast overall has taken a big step up too, just from having last season to kind of get my feet wet and just be able to continue to grow. I have a full pregame show now and running commercial spots every half inning, sponsors, things like that. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to grow here for sure.
Yeah, I remember you coming in last year, and just, you have like quadrupled your growth, and it's been really fun to watch you, as far as a broadcaster and stuff like that. So who picks the player of the week?
It's something that I guess Casey and I kind of discuss back and forth, but I kind of keep notes, especially as we play game to game, of who has a big performance, and then I kind of share with him who I think it should be. He lets me know who he thinks it should be, but I was telling him I think it's pretty safe to say Matt Wooten.
Pop-up comes right now. When you go to SNSN Sports, that pop-up comes right now.
Yeah, I saw that. A lot of big promotions coming up. But yeah, player of the week, something that we just kind of go back and forth about. But I was telling Casey, I don't think there's any question Matt Wooten stole the show for us this week in Nashua. 7 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts. I mean, kind of put the team on his back there, make sure we got a big win. So, I mean, every time he takes the baseball, he's been electric for us. I mean, the one bad game, it wasn't even a bad game. It was a little bloop shot down the right field line that cleared the bases. But every time he's taken the baseball for us, he's given us a chance to win. And then Luke Hardman, too, this week. I mean, his last 3 outings, he's got 18 strikeouts, no walks. You got to get him in there somewhere. So our pitching's led the way.
Why did they pull in that game? Did he just have you could only do so many innings, or?
So generally, there is league rules as far as pitch count goes, but generally speaking, our coaches try to limit innings and pitches for various reasons. Biggest of which is that my main thing as the general manager of the team is I want to see these guys go back to their schools healthy. The last thing I want to do is have to have a conversation with a coach who's upset because a player came back hurt because we overused them or misused them or anything like that. I don't know what Luke's pitch count was that day, but the coaching staff certainly had a plan in place and executed it the way they wanted to. And, just sometimes the ball doesn't bounce our way as far as wins and losses go. It's tough.
That's baseball.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Luke's family was there. And I
Yeah.
remember like Van coming running over to me where I was on third base camp, and he goes, "We're over there. Make sure Luke's pitching." And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. That's your kid. That's staying with you." He said, "Yeah." So because we have communication now,
Yeah.
to the booth and everything. I said, "Hey, after this, I'm going to get a shot. Whatever." Luke's out of the game.
Well, we still got to spotlight him, and it's actually his birthday today. So,
How was it?
yeah, I guess that was his birthday present for himself. 6 shutout innings. So
it was a great performance.
it was awesome to watch. Yeah.
So let's talk about Mr. Tirado here. So we have we have a graphic up right now up on the screen where it shows player of the week, 2 stolen bases, 2 RBIs, scored 2 runs, and batted .307 for the week. How did you feel last week?
Yeah, I felt pretty good. It's definitely the beginning. It was definitely a little bit of a struggle, but I mean, it's so nice to have the cages inside and just to have our weight room in there and just put in some work, figured out some things, and worked out that, last week.
So now, where are you going to college?
I go to UMass Amherst.
Okay, so what is your goal? I mean, a lot of the kids, that are playing, Sea Unicorns or on various teams in the Futures League. What is your goal? You just want to play baseball, through college, or are you looking to go to another step?
I mean, I think if we're all playing college baseball, we're always planning to go to the next step until baseball doesn't allow us to go to the next step. And if an opportunity comes, then it comes, and very grateful for that.
Right. Can you caveat for that on his performance and you knowing him personally?
Yeah,
years, or?
Obviously, as he mentioned, his father and I played with and against each other when we were growing up, probably from about age 9 or 10 all the way through high school. We hadn't seen each other in years. I've told Anthony this is his grandfather, so his father's father was the best coach I had ever played for in my life. He was a coach of the opposite high school I was at, but I played summer ball for him for a few years, and he was just an amazing man. And unfortunately, he had passed away several years ago, and I didn't make it down to the services, so I hadn't had an opportunity to see them at all. And during COVID, we're hosting some tournaments for travel ball because we were the only state in the region allowed to do it. And I start talking to one of the coaches there, a guy by the name of Brian Looney, former major league player, who's running his own travel ball team at the time. And he says something about his assistant coach being from Waterbury and points out, Anthony. And, I'm looking at him and I'm like, not really recognizing him, but kind of. And so we get to talking later on, and Anthony's father is nearby. And, so Brian asked, George where he grew up, and he's like, right across from Municipal Stadium. I'm like, Tirado? And all of a sudden, it all just came flooding back, of course. And then getting to watch Anthony play a few times at the stadium that summer during COVID, I was really impressed. And, I knew that when the time came, I was going to talk to our coaches about possibly having Anthony on our team. I don't get involved in the roster very much, but Anthony was one kid that I knew I wanted to get on the team. And so I mentioned it to the coaches when that time came, and it just worked out that UMass was willing to have Anthony come play for us too. And, Anthony's been great for us the last couple of years. I'm sure he'd like to put up better numbers. I'm sure every player would. But, he's got a great swing, and he works really hard, and that's all we can really ask for is that kind of a attitude from the guys on the field.
So there's another player that I was thinking about just the other day because I believe his brother plays for the Bees, Irizarry. So last year was it Alex Irizarry?
Alex is with us, yeah.
Is he playing somewhere else now? Is he playing pro ball or?
He's still a college eligible player. I'm assuming he's playing summer ball somewhere else, but I haven't been aware of where he might be playing or anything like that. I haven't looked.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and when I come back, I want to talk maybe wins and losses a little bit with Anthony and see where in what maybe you feel the reasons are or not. I mean, I know you're not the coach, but we'll see what happens. So right here on SNSN with Unicorns for Lunch. Be back in a minute. Stay tuned.
Today's program is being brought to you by the Burns Agency in Dayville and Norwich, Home, auto, life insurance, all from a family-owned agency since 1932. Call 860-774-8549 or find them on the web at burnsagency.com and find out why you'll buy better at Burns. The Burns Agency, a Hub International company. Strain Family Motors on Route 12, Lisbon. Quality used cars like the SNSN Strain Family Motors Mobile that you will see at all SNSN sports events. Oil changes, remote car starters, all available and more in their service department. And if you really want to turn up the excitement, rent a Polaris Slingshot for the day and live it up. All available at Strain Family Motors, Route 12 in Lisbon.
Buying, refinancing, or renovating. Your home goals may just be closer and easier than you think with help from your neighbors at Eastern. The lending team at Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank would love to help you understand all the options available to you. And they're happy to help you every step of the way in achieving your dreams because they live where you live. Stop into a branch location or reach out in their easy online mortgage lending center. Get started with Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank at bankeasternct.com. That's bankeasternct.com. Member FDIC, equal.
Strain Family Motors has arrived. They're your local auto super center. Put some excitement in your day and rent a Polaris Slingshot from Strain Family Motors, adjacent to the Green Onion Restaurant on River Road. Check out Strain Family Motors Super Center on Facebook as well as strainfamilymotors.com for everything sales, service, and excitement. River Road, Lisbon, Strain Family Motors, your local auto super center.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Talk. They hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Once again, Lee Walter, or Walter Lee, which comes up in your email, by the way.
It comes up a lot.
A lot of.
I get that, or I get an S added to the last name all the time. I always tell people there's just one of me. So
No Walters. Adam, played by Plager.
That's me.
And Anthony Tirado, the Sea Unicorns Player of the Week. So, Anthony, it's been a little bit of a rough road in the last couple of weeks.
Mhm.
I've noticed, through Adam, and that a lot of the guys are changing up their walk-up songs. One kid cut his hair.
Yeah.
Just to kind of switch up the mojo or
Exactly.
whatever. Is any of this working? How do you feel about all these pseudo changes?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we have our little things that help us, and sometimes if stuff isn't working our way, we'll change it up to see, like you said, change up the mojo. It's definitely, I think all of us definitely don't want the record that we have, but it's just baseball. It happens, and big week coming up for us, and we just gotta figure out some stuff. And I mean, it'll happen. We have a long season for a reason, and stuff will hopefully start switching up and everything. Yeah.
So one of the things, and Adam, I'd like you to talk about this, is that, and I learned this last year, and Lee, I'm sure you of course you could speak to this, but when you start the season with a certain roster in college ball in the Futures League, it changes, and sometimes drastically. Could be a totally different team by the end of the year. So you want to talk about that dynamic a little bit?
Yeah, well, I remember before the season started working on the media guide, I was creating the all-time roster, and I think the average was 55 players on the roster from opening day to the end of the season, the last out of the season. So, yeah, I think it's two completely different teams from day one till the end of the season. Guys are on inning limits or whatever their college teams ask of their players and what they give them for their summer program. So, yeah, certainly a lot of change with that. I'm sure it makes a difference chemistry-wise when players are coming and going, but I think that's the beauty of baseball and the way teams are able to gel with one another, and hopefully that happens quickly. But it's fun to see the amount of guys that do come in. They all have different stories, and they all compete at a high level, and they all have certain goals in mind. Like you see the roster right now, plenty of risers that just finished high school baseball, they're trying to make the transition for their game, and it's different for everybody of how quick that change is. But you see different guys like Joey Arrace, who is our second baseman. You watch the 8th inning, I don't think many players would tell you he's a riser, the plays he's making over there at second base, or you get a catcher that comes in like Cal Chance. So it's fun to watch those guys grow. And even last summer when you had guys like Michael Belcher, David Rodriguez, those guys come in and they end up being big impact players for us, or even second-year players that come up like this guy right here. So it's a lot of fun. And baseball, it's funny. Like one week things can be going the way you want it to go, and the next week it flips the other way. So I think that just is about consistency and just not getting frustrated with yourself, and understanding that the beauty about baseball is you get to come back to the ballpark and do it again the next day.
I know one thing is that, like, if you have to look at Major League Baseball squads, nobody's opening day lineup is the same as it is today. So I don't know if you wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Major League Baseball, injuries happen every day. But at our level, like Adam said, it is a lot about the innings limits or at-bat limits in some cases with the hitters. Sometimes guys just got to leave because they got to do, internships, work, whatever it is. It's interesting, though, because like Adam said, the average roster size for the first 4 years in the league was probably about 55. We're probably going to actually be way under that this year unless we start getting a lot more injuries, and knock on wood, we won't do that. But yeah, it is always an interesting dynamic. But definitely an interesting dynamic the way summer ball works with, the roster that you have on opening day is definitely not the roster you're going to finish the season with. You'll have your core group that's there for most of the year, but there will be a lot of changes throughout the season.
So like when you came to the Unicorns last year for the first time, you walked out onto that field. Did you kind of like, wow, this is big time? Or,
I mean, yeah, like Mr. Lee said, I've played at Dodd.
Lee, I love it.
I can never call him.
We're gonna break him up that way.
I understand. That's why I told my story.
I mean, I've played at Dodd many times before, but I think it was just something different, like being with the Unicorns. Like, this is our stadium. I was like, wow. And then playing in front of that first like opening day crowd, I was like, this is really cool. Just the atmosphere, the fans, the fireworks. I've never seen so many fireworks in my life. Just all these after the game fireworks at Dodd and just at all the other parks. It's really cool. It's a cool experience. I love it.
So, like, I mean, if you could speak to that, isn't like the fireworks and everything in this level of ball really about entertainment and bringing families to the park?
So, not every college summer league is like that. Our league is fairly unique in that we do try to treat it more like the pro ball minor league system stuff, where we have all those in-game promos on the field. We have, the post-game fireworks. We have other things going on. And, part of that is to obviously help draw the fans and entertain the fans, but it's also to give players like Anthony, who talked about having that dream of potentially going pro someday, an opportunity to get a feel for what that's like. I mean, I can't speak for what UMass's crowds are like, but I'm sure they're nothing like ours on a fireworks night. But then there's guys from the SEC like LSU that are playing in front of 10,000 people every day. But it's definitely a unique thing, and something that I've thought about a lot this year is think about the fact that our team this year did not get to play in front of that home opening day crowd. They didn't get the feel for it for a long time this year compared to previous years, and I felt a little something different in not only the crowd but on the bench. There was just a lot of almost boredom, I want to say. And I know some of the guys were asking some of the other guys, are the crowds always like this? And they're like, no, it gets better. But we didn't have that opening day crowd because of the weather this year. So it's definitely having an effect.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak as a broadcaster. It's a lot of fun to call the game when it gets loud. I mean, the walk-off win that Novak had earlier in the summer, it's a lot of fun to have big energy moments like that. And I know the crowd plays a factor. Even last week against Westfield when you win it in the Derby, and they're banging their seats when it's 2 strikes when Gio's in the ballgame late throwing gas. I mean, it's electric moments like that, and it's a lot of fun when you get to play in front of a venue like that. I've never been in an environment like that. I remember, I think it was Fan Appreciation Day when we had 4,500 last summer. So we get crowds like that. I thrive off of it. I know players, they talk about it and they really enjoyed it. So something I'm definitely looking forward to. And I think some great opportunities with the promotions that we have coming up to make sure that the fans are coming out and watching the team play. So I enjoy it. It makes the moment feel a little bit bigger than it is, and it's a lot of fun when you hear them making noise and when you start to rally late in games and things really get going for the crowd. I thrive off that.
So, like Anthony, last weekend, Conti came in one night and he didn't really have a great night. He actually took the loss.
Mm-hmm.
But he came in the next night and just you were saying he was gas.
Yeah.
And he came off the field and I didn't know if he was going to have a stroke because he was like, rah, rah. And he was just, I mean, we're talking animation. He was electric. What does that do for you and the rest of the team when you see your player and, coming off after a performance like that?
Yeah, he's a great player, great person. Like being able to just flush that one outing that didn't go his way and being able to come back out, like getting us pumped up. Just it's good, like leadership role, like getting all the energy up from him, and definitely like having that type of player and having that person that like gets on you and like pumps you up. It makes everyone like, all right, yeah, we got this, and it helped. It helps. Who
else in the clubhouse is like that? That like a clubhouse leader. I mean, if it's yourself, say it's yourself. That gets people, gets the rest of the team going, gets everybody excited to play that day, or
there's not a lot of kids like Gio, like who gets like we have a lot of quiet guys, but also at the same time, like when they have a big moment and they have something special, they'll get pumped up and stuff, and it's nice. It's pretty good. Like just it's nice to see like someone who isn't that vocal then have something big happen and they get all pumped up and then everyone's all pumped up, everyone's all getting ready to go and like, all right, it's my turn now, let me do this.
So I know as a broadcaster and I don't do any of the talking during C Unicorn games, Adam does. When you see him come, what does that do to you?
When I watch Gio come out,
when you see him come out, what does that do to you as a broadcaster?
I know, like, just like watching him pitch, he's a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a leader in that clubhouse, in that locker room. And I know he was wearing it a little bit during that stretch, and he really wanted to try and put this team on his back and let them know that he was there for them. But he's a leader in that clubhouse. It's a lot of fun to watch him pitch. He cares a lot about the wins and the losses. But when you see him come into a game in the ninth inning, the outing that he had, I wouldn't even classify it as a bad outing. It was a couple of blue pits that found outfield grass. But I think by his standard, he would tell you he didn't pitch well. That's what he said in his post-game interview. That doesn't meet his standards, and he wanted a chance to go right back out there and pitch the next game. And he even said after the ninth inning, if we go into the 10th, I think you pretty much told Denbro, you're putting me back in there. So you want guys that want the baseball like that want to play in big moment spots, and he's one of those guys. And it's I don't know another word than to say fun, because he loves those big moments when you see guys like Jackson Marshall come up and try and hit against him. He lives for that type of spotlight, and he thrives in that moment. That's why he's a closer for our team and why he's pitching when the game's on the line late. And he faced 6 batters. He struck out 3 of them. First guy was with the first and second, and the guy's trying to drop down a bunt against 94, 95, and he pops it up. And then he strikes out the next 2 guys. So he lives for moments like that. And then going back to, I guess, clubhouse guys, someone that comes to my mind is Antonio Ducatelli. I think he's always at the top of the dugout step.
And he's back.
He's back.
He's one of those players that have filtered back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he had an outstanding year at Central Connecticut, which I think has helped his development and his growth to become more of that leader. He was a big part of that Central Connecticut team that made it into the NCAA tournament. What he does defensively and also what he does with the bat, he's had some clutch hits for us already, and I think that's just the start of it for him.
Which I think is kind of funny because our intern, Nick, is a Southern guy.
Yeah.
So he's like, he said to me, he goes, I'm trying to be a fan. I'm trying to be a fan, but I'm a Southern guy. He's a Central guy.
Not much of a rivalry between Southern and Central, though. They're totally different divisions.
Northern than Nick, it's tight. It's tight. So what does that do to you as a GM? We're talking about, like a Ducatelli, going off, and we're same thing with a Gio Conti, who apparently is really in with the ladies like him.
The ladies do like Gio. They swarm around him.
Is it the chains?
It could be. It could be. Yeah, I mean, as far as, how it affects me, I mean, This year I've probably been in the dugout a little bit more just because of the weather again. Shouldn't be down there a lot unless the weather's an issue. But, the times that I do get to watch, seeing somebody like that, it certainly pumps me up too. But, a couple of observations that I've seen this year, first and foremost, this is definitely got to be our youngest roster that we've ever had. We probably have more guys this year that are risers, freshmen, sophomores than we have ever had before. And that kind of shows a little bit in the play. The other thing, too, is, to Anthony's point about it being, a fairly shy clubhouse and not really that strong leader outside of maybe a few guys. I've also seen that a lot of guys individually are a lot harder on themselves when something's not going their way this year. I've seen a lot more frustration out of the guys this year, and I just hope that they can all find a way to just relax and have fun. Summer ball is about development, yes, but you got to go out there and you got to have fun because baseball is a frustrating game. And like golf, if you're frustrated all the time, you're just going to keep compounding and struggling. And you really have to make sure that you can find a way to just forget about it, like Gio did. Forgot about that tough outing against New Britain, came back the next night against Westfield and helped us win that game.
Right. Do you want to talk about the game in Worcester?
Sure.
Let's talk about frustration for a minute.
I think for one, I don't know if we need to publicize any of that, but two, it's about
the guys get frustrated at times,
yeah, for
right?
sure. It's frustrating. You want to be winning games, and it was a game in which we had a 5-1 lead, and you want to find a way to close those games out. But I think for one, it's a good learning experience of those are games that we know that we can win as a whole, and I think maybe losing a game like that, it kind of shows what it does take to win at this level. It's not an easy league to win in, and I think that shows. There's some really deep rosters. The Bravehearts have a very deep roster, so does Vermont. I enjoy getting to play against those teams, even though I'm calling the game. But you see, some of the top-end talent in this league, and it's not easy to close out games against some of those players. They have a deep lineup, and I think that raises the compete level in this league where obviously there's a high work ethic. Yeah, you're there to develop, but you also, at the end of the day, you want to win. Winning is fun, maybe some of the tough losses, some of the bumps in the road are good for a young team that we have. You can learn really early in the season, and just thinking about it, you see plenty of risers. Getting a taste of collegiate baseball like this where the fans are on you, you might not always get that at the college level. And to understand how to perform in some of those moments and talking with a lot of guys, it's about learning how to slow the game down. It can speed up on you in a hurry, and when the game speeds up, it's hard to simplify the game and make plays. So I think it's a good lesson to learn in the month of June, and when you head into July, you understand what it does take. 7th inning, 8th inning, when the crowd gets a little bit louder and the moment feels a little bit louder, it's not like the first and second inning. Outs become a lot harder to get. That's why you have late inning leverage guys, and maybe a ground ball in the hole at second or a ground ball to short feels a lot quicker because the guy's running a little bit harder up the first base line. They don't want to run into an out. So it's fun to see the compete level kind of change and really grow. And I feel like a lot of the games at home this year have been 1-run, 2-run games late into the game. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to put some of those games away. But it's good to be in moments like that where the moment's a little bit tighter and you have to find a way within your approach to have some success and clear the mind out too.
A lot of times this year, it seems like the team isn't starting to hit until the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. And when you do, you're putting up numbers.
Yeah.
And I even said to Adam, why don't they do this in the 4th?
That is a good question.
Because you what was that one game they put up a 5 spot?
Yeah, against Worcester in the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah.
It's obvious you guys can beat anybody.
Yeah, when we're on, we're in general we're good. Like we're not like a bad team that's always losing. Like when we're on, we could hit, and it's obviously frustrating that we get going like in late innings and we wish it could be in the first or second inning, but
sure.
It's sometimes it just works that way, and we just have to figure out like how we could get it going early in the game and score first and hold our lead, and not even just hold our lead, extend it and keep going and keep going.
Have you seen that too? It seems like it's like, all right, the 7th inning they get there, and it's really cool because when you guys go,
the crowd gets behind you,
Yeah.
and it's.
We make some jokes, like it'll be like the third inning, and we're like, all right, guys, it's the ninth inning. Let's go. Let's score some runs. But
And you almost have to come out with that mentality. It's the same thing defensively, right? I mean, more of the errors come early in the game than they do later in the game,
Yes.
even though sometimes
That's a good point.
there have been key errors late in games too. Yeah, they just, for whatever reason, this team seems to come out a little flat at times, and unfortunately, it hurts the pitchers. You know, our pitchers overall are pitching pretty well. You know, sometimes there's too many walks hit batters, but key errors are definitely gonna hurt you every time.
What would Bo Jaworski do?
Yeah, that was fun, right? Late in the year. I mean, his bat really came alive, but
He aged out, right? So that's why he's
gone.
So now, where are you in that process? I mean, how many eligible years would you have left?
Yeah.
In the Futures League.
how many would I have?
So, did you redshirt last year?
I redshirted my freshman
Okay, so
year.
you have 3 more years of college eligibility
Yes.
left. So you would have 2 more years of Futures League eligibility.
Right, so you can come back, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good.
Maybe he'll be lucky enough to have a great year at UMass, and Cape Cod will be calling him too. So
there you go.
That's the dream, yeah.
They're like the epicenter, are they not?
Yeah,
Of the college league.
The Cape is where everybody wants to go. That's where all your best prospects are going. Typically, the year before they would get drafted. If you could play in the Cape, you probably
Good
have
shot.
a really good shot of signing a professional contract for sure.
What other leagues are like the NECBL?
Yeah, so the NECBL is another league based in New England. It's been around about twice the amount of time that the Futures League has. Due to that, they've built a lot of strong relationships with higher-end D1 schools. You'll get a lot of guys coming from the West Coast, from down south, but those guys are guys that didn't really play a lot in the spring for those schools. It's not like they're the best of the best coming to that league. And so talent level-wise, I mean, our guys are every bit as good as what's going on in the NECBL, but for whatever reason, there's this thing where people say, oh, the NECBL is so much better than Futures League. Futures League joke. Futures League is not a joke. Futures League is a very real league, and you can see it. I mean, you got guys like Anthony out there who could easily play in the NECBL if he wanted to, and is with us. And our league definitely competes well. And so for anybody that feels the NECBL is so much better than the Futures League, I got to tell you, you're wrong.
So how do you tell people this?
Well, if people ask me directly,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not having too many of those conversations.
Yeah.
But it's out there. The chatter is out there. Our league is definitely considered by many to be not as good of a league, but that's very much false. We are a very good league, very competitive league, and all of our franchises are very strong. And even the teams that are currently not in playoff position right now could very easily make a run in the second half, get into the playoffs, and win the league. I mean,
that's kind of where I was going earlier with the rosters kind of flipping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? You may get an infusion, of some players that help the team greatly, and where Nashua or Worcester, some of their kids are, may fall off, and
could happen.
You just don't know.
No, you don't. Could
That's
happen to
baseball.
anybody.
You just don't know.
And honestly, I think the players that we have are very capable of winning this league. It's just a matter of putting it all together, and we've struggled to do that so far. And, but we've still got more than half of our season left, so there's no reason that we can't turn it around and go on one of those long winning streaks that Worcester's been having, and move ourselves up into playoff position and get hot at the right time and still win this thing.
So again, we have Anthony Tirado here in the studio. He is the player of the week with the Unicorns. Sea Unicorns, number 7, by the way. So when you see him out there, 2 stolen bases, 2 RBIs, scored 2 runs, and batted a robust 307 last week, right? With the Sea Unicorns. So I'm going to take a quick break once more, and then when I come back, I want to talk about Shark in the Park, and which I have up on the screen right now. But we'll come back to that in just a minute as we continue with Sea Unicorns for lunch right here on SNSN Sports.
You buy better. Better with Burns. Much better. So much better with Burns. The right insurance at the right price. You buy better with Burns. You buy better at Burns. You buy better.
The more things industries change, the more they stay the same. The insurance industry is changing every day, from rates to coverages, what qualifies and what doesn't. What always stays the same, though? The Burns Agency's commitment to quality local customer service at unbeatable prices. Call, email, or visit us at byrnesagency.com. Or, like always, stop by our convenient locations in Norwich and Dayville. The Burns Agency, proudly serving Eastern Connecticut since 1932.
Better at Burns. Much better. So much better at Burns. The right insurance at the right price. You buy better at Burns. You buy better at Burns. You buy better.
Is it safe to visit the dentist? In a word, yes. Especially if that dentist is Dr. Katzoff and the staff at Griswold Dental Associates. They follow all the latest safety protocols while doing what they do best, taking care of you. From preventive to restorative, your dental care couldn't be in better hands. To schedule your appointment, call Griswold Dental Associates today, 860-376-2626. That's 860-376-2626.
Comes the 2-0 home. It's a fly ball down the right field line. It's a fair ball. Soldier has the green light rounding third. He's going to come all the way home and score! The Norwich Unicorns are back-to-back future league champions. Nick Tomasetto walks it off in the ninth against the Starfighters.
Transfer.
So we just watched that little blurb there. You know, what about Nick Tomasetto? Where'd he go?
Yeah,
That's a good
apparently.
question. I have no
Yeah, he
idea.
just transferred to Seton Hall. So I guess him and AJ Solder, how fitting is that? They're going to be teammates now in
AJ's
college.
going to UConn.
Oh, is AJ now
He
transferred
transferred
to
again.
UConn?
He's going
Wow.
to UConn.
There's no homes anymore.
What do you think? I'm not a fan of the portal. To be honest with you,
I'm going to tell you right now, I am so glad I am not a college baseball coach or a coach of any kind in a college, because it is the wild, wild west. And if a kid's not happy at a school for whatever reason, I'm all for him being able to transfer without penalty. But it has gotten really out of control at this point, and some of it's money related. I'm sure that if somebody called Mr. Tirado over here and said, "Hey, Anthony, we want you to come play for us, and we're going to give you this amount of money," he would consider leaving UMass for that. But it's crazy. It's so hard to keep track of. I think the numbers are staggering. I think it's well over 65%, probably much higher than that, of guys that are hitting the transfer portal every year now at this point. And you just don't know where these guys are going to be, and you can't build roster continuity. It's hard enough to build roster continuity in college sports anyway, because you know that if a guy even stays 4 years, he's gone after that. At least in the pro levels, if you got guys under team control for 6-8 years, you can build some team continuity. But
right.
There is just no continuity anymore in college
Yeah, I mean,
sports.
players they're not even arbitration eligible for many years before
exactly.
they come up. So I'm not a big fan of the portal at all, where kids can just come and go as they please. Do I think they should get paid something? Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you why. Because I think they've been making millions and millions and millions of dollars for. Let's look at UConn, for example, just the men and the women's basketball program. Yeah. All right, I mean, Oriema's not hurting. He's a millionaire many times over, and why? And because of him, or because of his players, Paige Beckers, and other, Rosati, and all these other players around him. But can they refine the portal where you can jump at once, but then you're done?
Well, they're gonna have to make some adjustments, both with the money and with the portal. But the one thing that I will counter,
it's all willy-nilly right now.
It is, but the one thing I'll counter you on the portal thing with is Anthony chose UMass probably in part because of the coaches. These coaches have contracts, but they're not tied to staying there. Mm-hmm. So if his coach left, why shouldn't Anthony have the ability to see what the next coach is like, or choose another coach that he might like? So, when these coaches leave these schools, and they can be established there. They can be there 20 years with another 20 years on their contract and up and leave the next day. So to that end, I think that the players should have a little bit of an option too. but they're going to have to make some changes to the way the whole thing is working right now, because they went from one extreme of kids are tied there for too long unless they transfer and get penalized for a year by sitting out and making no money, to now it's you can do whatever you want. And so they got to find some middle ground there on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Right, the way it sits right now, I'm not a fan. What about you? I mean, how do you feel? I mean, you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
We're seeing Conti, transferring from UConn to Siena.
Yeah.
For one. So, like, how do you feel about the transfer portal?
I like it for some reasons. Like, if, like, Gio, for example, like, he didn't play or didn't have a lot of innings or maybe not at all. And then,
I heard he didn't have a lot of reps up at
and then
UConn.
if you have a talk with coach and they're like, it's probably going to be the same thing this year, then I see why Gio would transfer to play.
That's understandable.
To get that role. But then there's some kids who probably shouldn't transfer with just either stats or just anything, and they do transfer, and then they're kind of stuck, like, I have nowhere to go. And like that part, it's hard to build a team with that is very
continuity.
Close. Yes. Yeah. And it's just like sometimes you lose a player that you wish you didn't lose, and it's frustrating. There's some players that, like, UMass is lost, and it's like it's frustrating. Like, it's probably not like you probably should have stayed, but I mean, do your thing. We're gonna add better players. So UMass in general. We're going pretty heavy in the portal with some, especially pitching wise.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there were some kids like that had a lot of commercials during the NCAA tournament. You know what I mean? So that NIL program is really taken into effect. Again, I mean, honestly, how many college kids come out of college, and maybe this is you, maybe it's not, and all of a sudden you got a lot of college loan debt. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of these NIL guys, are probably getting full rides, but I'm sure there are other kids that are making something. Do you think it would be appropriate that some of that money goes towards their college tuition?
I think it would be appropriate, personally. And speaking for baseball in particular,
keep them out of debt.
For years, baseball didn't have a lot of full scholarships for the players because they only had about 11.5 to 13.5 scholarships to share amongst the entire team. So coaches trying to divvy up scholarship money and hoping guys are getting academic scholarships on top of it to help pay for school. And in a lot of cases, these guys are still paying a lot. So for those in baseball, at least, that can, get some NIL money that maybe helps pay for their tuition, or, at least gives them some money to spend, or whatever it is. I'm definitely all for that. But, some of this is, from what I'm hearing, at least without being on the inside, getting a little out of hand, because guys are essentially being paid just to show up, and you got to do some work for it. I mean,
Adam, how do you feel about the transfer portal? Name, image, likeness. Some people call it next in lines. I mean,
I love the name and image likeness. I mean, why not? I mean, you want to, present yourself as, I guess, athletes.
They have play-by-play guys in the transfer portal now too. So.
I'm not in that, but no, I think at the end of the day, like, the athlete should be able to choose to a certain extent, like, where they play and where they call home. It's their home for 4 years. So, I mean, you want to make sure that you enjoy where you are and have the opportunity that you need. You guys shouldn't be able to go 2 to 3 times. I don't know. I feel like, personally, like, if I'm a student, I don't know how I would get through school. I'm sure that they would help me out if I'm that kind of athlete, but still, I don't know. I'm a creature of habit, and I like having a routine and being able to do the same thing. And I don't know, as far as the transfer portal, I consider it's like free agency at this point. And once it opens up, you got your window. And
free agency isn't this crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's not. It's not to that extent. But I mean, I'm all about NIL, because I mean, if teams are able to make profit off their athlete, why they should be able to make some for themselves. I mean, they like, you look at college football, like the SEC, those guys are professional athletes. They're treated as such. They are royalty to those schools, and they do make a lot of money off them. So I think it is only fair that they do get something in return. Most of those guys get a chance to go play professional, but there's no guarantee for that. So while they are in the limelight, they should be able to get some earnings back on what they are doing for their schools.
So there's one thing, like there's one basketball player that I have a lot of respect for, and that's Ray Allen. Is that he, after his third year at UConn, got drafted, and of course, he went and became he's the all-time 3-point leader, is he not?
He was.
Steph
Curry passed
Steph
him.
Curry, well,
Yeah.
but he actually went back to school.
Yes.
So like we are sitting in the audience of Melissa's daughter is graduating with a degree in psychology at UConn, and all of a sudden we hear Raymond. I forget his middle name.
I think Ray is actually his middle name. I think his name is Walter Ray Allen.
No, they called him Ray. They did. So anyway, all of a sudden he's like, you see all the paparazzi everywhere. We thought it was his son.
No,
it was not. He went back and finished his degree 2 years ago.
Wow.
And he finished his psych degree. So I got to give the guy props for that. Does he need it?
No. But there's been a lot of people that have done that. And, when I see that, I obviously get very excited for it because
it's respect.
Props to those guys for being able to leave early, go pro, have great careers, but to still feel the desire and want to, because it wasn't a need, like you said, but desire and want to go back and finish and at least be able to tell their family, hey, I got this degree.
Yeah.
And so, I was like you. I have a lot of respect for Ray Allen. He was always one of my favorite players coming out of UConn, if not my favorite. So I was very happy to see that he went back.
Yeah, we were there, and it was like we didn't even know what we were seeing at first. So, all right, let's talk about Shark in the Park. That is coming up on July 5th. Lee, why don't you give us an idea of what that's all about? I saw one thing. I think it's going to be a long night.
It is going to be a very long night with a game the next day, early in the day. But, yeah, we when we were doing our promotional planning for the season coming up, we, last year we celebrated the 30th season of Dodd Stadium. So we had gone and had every game of the season was a different year of the stadium's history. And we talked about a lot of world events. And so we obviously, as we're going back in time about, okay, what happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we're looking at it. And we're like, well, we just told everybody what happened 20 and 30 years ago. So, we got back to 1985 originally. We found several. 1985 was just a huge year, right, for movies, for music, for everything. It might very well be the turning point in the world at this point. But then, we're looking back further, and 1975 pops up, and it was Jaws that came out in 1975.
I remember going to see it.
And,
my mother took me to see that.
Yeah, so we thought, how cool would it be? Because Narragansett is one of our sponsors. And obviously, the Narragansett beer was featured in Jaws, Crush It Like Quint. And so we were still in the meeting, and I called my Narragansett rep, and I said, hey, what are the odds we can do this? And they're like, love it, because they're pushing the 50th anniversary of Jaws throughout the year, too.
Nice cross-promotion.
Yes. And so when we looked at the calendar, we didn't necessarily worry about, hey, what date was the movie released? We know that Jaws was loosely based around 4th of July weekend off the coast of Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, and said, oh, we're home on July 5th. How perfect would it be to put up a projector screen after the game and show the movie Jaws in conjunction with the 50th anniversary, and partnered with Narragansett. And so that's what we're going to do. But it is going to make for a long night. So you guys need to play very fast that night, because from what I hear, it takes at least a half hour to set up the projector screen and everything. And so, yeah. And then they got to break it down.
And the game is regular time, 6:30.
Yes. Yep.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to get in. Lloyd Van Lannen. Van said Luke Hardman 7 innings pitch, but I think there's a general consensus between the four of us. It was 6 innings.
It was 6.
Yeah, it was 6 innings.
It was 6 innings. 7 Ks, no walks, 1 hit, 0 runs. And today's his birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Luke.
So happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Luke.
All right, very good. Last thing, it's, and I know I mention it to you all the time, and you don't ever give me any information, and I'm really hoping at some point I'll ask and you will have something to say. We all know, there's the city of Norwich, has, they're possibly selling or looking to sell Dodd Stadium. maybe something past that? We don't know. Is there anything that you can talk about?
The only update I have for you at this point is the city council during the meeting in June when they were going to talk about it again, pushed the resolution back to the second meeting in July for discussion. So still very much up in the air what's going to happen. Other than that, our ownership certainly is committed to Norwich and wants to stay in Norwich if the city will keep us. And they're going to try to reach out again this month and set up some meetings to attempt to discuss a lease negotiation and extension. But there's really not much else to tell.
Other than that, there's not much. How does now? How do you feel as a player? I mean, that's and especially with a couple more years of eligibility and everything. So, especially with the Futures League, from what I understand, is expanding again.
We're trying to. Yes, we are trying to.
So,
yeah, I mean, once I heard about it, obviously it's all like unfortunate news, and I mean, losing Dodd and losing that Norwich stadium.
it's not done yet. We don't know
Exactly,
you know, so.
exactly. But if it was to, like, all these fans, all these kids, they really look up to us. They probably have no clue who we are, but we're playing baseball, the sport that they love and they want to play, and play college baseball even, or even become a major league player. And these kids they look up to us. They always want autographs. They always want a ball. They really, really look up to us, and they even remember us. I had a father and son come up to me after one of the games, and the son had recognized me from I played at Dunkin' Donuts Park against UConn. And the son and the father were there, and the little kid came up to me after the game and was like, "Did you play at Dunkin' Donuts Park?" And they remember you. If you put on, if you play good, or even if you play a position that they play, they're always going to remember you. Like, oh, that number 7, Anthony Tirado, or anyone. They'll always remember you, and like, I want to play just like him, or I want to be just like him. And it's really something special to have, like, especially you have a young kid remember you and come up to you after.
You guys are superstars.
Yeah,
to these young boys and girls.
Exactly.
Most of the time, not anymore because I kind of moved up to the concourse, but the third base cam, down in the dugout, and there are kids that over there in the visitors dugout all the time.
Yeah,
it's wanting to get. And I've never ever seen any of the Futures players, whether it's from UConn, from the Sea Unicorns, or any of the visitors, say, "Nah, get out of here, kid."
Yeah,
they're always.
No, it's my job. tell them they got to try to wait till after the game because somebody's going to get hurt one of these days with an autograph being signed in the middle of the game, and I'm really trying to avoid that and hope that the kids in the stands understand that. But I love that the kids want to sign autographs, and I just wish they would do it after the games or even pregame, but once the game gets going, to just focus on the game and make sure everybody's staying safe.
Last thing, Van wants to know how the City Connect jersey pre-orders coming.
I don't have an answer for that. I'll have to check when I get back to the stadium.
Anthony, do you have any other words or anything else you want to say to the folks out there?
I mean,
because we're doing this live now, but what happens is people watch it.
Yeah. Save Dot Stadium. Keep it going, and I'm excited if I have the opportunity to come back next year, I'm excited to come back and do the same thing over. So Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. Adam?
Yeah, no, it's always a lot of fun. I enjoy calling games there. It's plenty of history there, and that's, I think, what I remember most when I step into that ballpark, step into that broadcast booth is the tradition of baseball in Norwich. I know it means a lot to the city, so yeah, I don't take it for granted. It means a lot to me, and it's pretty special to get to call that place home for the last couple of summers. It's been pretty awesome.
So I'm going to say something that I think you should have the last word on it. So, being the boss, being the GM, I think you should. So all I'm going to say is that this is my second year, being able, to stream the games from Dodge Stadium. And last year, and I've told this to Mr. Lee, that I have become a fan. I've become a big fan of the Sea Unicorns. It's not just a gig. This is like, let's go to the ballpark, man. Let's go. And I find myself, and I got to shut my mouth sometimes because I'm up there on the third base camera going, come on. And people are around me going, you get into this, don't you? I said, I guess so. So if an almost 60-year-old guy can go into a ballpark and fall in love with a team in a stadium and have nothing to do with what you're doing for a job, That's something to be said, at least for me. And I really wish and hope that others would give it that opportunity. I don't want to hear any bullshit about, I don't like the name Sea Unicorn. Well, that's a bunch of crap. That's nothing. Let's talk yard goats or trash pandas or something like that, because that's kind of stupid too, right?
That's what it's about, though.
I know.
Everyone I've told that I played for the Unicorns, they love the name.
I love the name. I think it's genius, to be honest with you.
It's pretty cool.
The color scheme and everything. So anyway, if I can do it, and I'm uptight, I'm just your normal uptight guy, and I've fallen in love with it. Everybody else can too, really, if I can do it. The final word.
Yeah, we still hear a lot about the name. We still hear a lot about not being pro ball. But again, I throw this challenge out all the time. Come out to the ballpark, see what it's about. We've converted people like Mike here. We can convert just about anybody because we still provide the same affordable, fun, family-friendly entertainment that we have always provided going back to our New York Penn League days as the Connecticut Tigers. And we're going to continue to do that for as long as we can. Obviously, hoping to stay at Dodd Stadium if the city and us can work that out. But, in the meantime, right now we've got about 15 more home games, including 3 more fireworks nights, the aforementioned Jaws night. Just come on out to the ballpark, have a great time, cheer on the guys because I know they love that. And, it's not over yet. We still have a chance for that first three-peat in Futures League history. So
that's it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
you guys
Mike.
coming in and everything.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Have a good day, guys. We'll see. Actually, and for this show, we'll see you next Monday again, right here on SNSN Sports.